Hi. A few days ago, I compared today's world to the French Revolution and mentioned a marvelous little book called Fiat Money, Inflation in France, written in 1933 by Andrew Dickson White, the founder of Cornell University. In my opinion, the book forecasts eerily what is happening today and what is likely to happen quite soon. Read it, and it will give you the ability to see the immediate future and profit from it, or at least defend you against the coming harm. The first future reading is, gold is likely to zoom and then zoom some more. Why? The answer involved the story of the first central bank in the world, the first paper money Ponzi scheme, and the first bankruptcy due to printed money. In France, well before the revolution of 1789, actually 70 years before it, a talented conman by the name of John Law founded the world's first central bank. He was a Scotsman who said that basing money on gold and silver was bad because it limited the government's ability to issue credit, which of course is the good side and the advantage of gold and silver. So he recommended that the government instead issue paper money via a central bank backed by the government promise. Promise of what, please? Of paying it back with paper, yes, and of not issuing any more, or at least not much more, both of which were, of course, not worth the hot air they were printed on. And so John Law caused France to go bankrupt, and many people who got caught up in his web of magic paper money also went bankrupt. Half of Europe did. But 70 years must be beyond human memory, because 70 years later, after his bust, just before the French Revolution, all gold and silver disappeared from the French economy, because capitalists, wise cowards that they were, smuggled it abroad or hid it under mattresses or in the ground, and so the French economy stagnated. The new revolutionary French parliament got it into their heads to issue paper, same as John Law had done. So just as to start, jumpstart the economy. By the way, just like President Bush did in the financial debacle of 2009, but I digress. There were violent debates in France about it, but finally the people convinced themselves that John Law's paper had become worthless because it was backed by nothing tangible and because it didn't pay interest. And so the revolutionary French parliament, consisting of many Bernie Sanders types, decided to fix both these problems. First, it confiscated all the church lands, the church was rich, and decided that these would serve as collateral for the new money. Second, the new money, called assignats, assignments, would pay interest at 3%. And so to prevent the paper from becoming too useful, only large denominations were issued. This would solve the problem. Now you may ask, did these pieces of paper have value because they were backed by the church lands? After all, they were sort of mortgage on the land, you may say. The answer is no. They were worthless. Think of it. If you have a mortgage on a specific house and the owner defaults and the law courts are working well, you can take possession. It'll cost you time and money and aggravation, but you'll get back most of your money eventually. But what if the house has 5 mortgages on it, or 10, without any priority to any? And what if it's not one house, but 1,000 or 10,000? Or not just a house, but land too, and you're one of a million holders of a sort of a floating mortgage without any priority. How can you collect? Of course you can't. A piece of mortgage owned by a great many people over many different assets is next to worthless, especially if the mortgage issuer can also issue more and more of them, then it's completely worthless. And indeed, soon enough, these revolutionary French assignats fell in value by 90%, and more had to be issued to pay the interest and to jumpstart the economy, which went dead, of course, again. Just like the Fed had done just last month, printing a few trillions. In France, it didn't work. Everyone went bust, and then all took pitchforks in hands, set up the guillotine, and began to lop off the heads of the aristocrats who had foolishly kept up the palaces and parties and turn up their noses at the common folk who could not even feed their kids. In fact, some historians even blame the French Revolution on the paper money printing without the backing of gold that could have restrained the government from irresponsibly printing more. So why am I telling you this long ago story? Because today's equivalent of the assignats just went bust in the US. Yes, today's equivalents, called CLOs, collateralized loan obligations. These are pieces of paper that give the owner a share in a heap of other pieces of paper, either mortgages on real estates, but also on bonds of companies that in normal non-corona times would have an okay chance of paying them back. But just like the old French assignats, the CLOs also have no mechanism of collecting in case of mortgage heaps behind the paper do not pay interest. Worse, the CLOs are often backed by paper that is backed not by assets, by other paper that, yes, you got it, is backed by more paper. And so, just like France, 230 years ago, in the US, some big CLO just went bust last week. The Fed got scared, which seems to be its permanent state these days, and immediately printed a few more tens, or is it hundreds of billions of new money, really more assignats, to prop up the CLOs. But it didn't matter, because there are many more such worthless pieces of paper out there, and they are all about to go bust, because they are backed by nothing tangible, just hot air promises. And what then? After the French Revolution, what happened next was that the only safe store of value, gold, zoomed in price. The government then declared it illegal to use it as money, but the government by that time was not obeyed, and so gold went up and up and up. And then France went completely and hopelessly bust, and it had to collect a big army under a magnetic new leader, Napoleon, who promised to make France glorious again, and then went to rob other nations of their wealth because there was nothing left at home. Now switch to today. You already know my forecast that with a very high certainty, in my opinion, we are facing a US conflict with China because it's the only place, China, with deep enough pockets to pay the US debt. And conversely, the US is the only place with big enough pockets to pay China's debt. They are not in much better financial position. So the two will fight it off to see who will be left holding the bag and who will survive economically. It will be bad. But meantime, gold will go up and up and up. And I can see it rising fairly soon. In fact, what happened to oil recently in the futures market is the template for what is going to happen to gold. What happened to oil? Oil future contract recently went down to negative price of $37 per barrel. Negative price. That is, if you bought a future contract of crude oil, you got paid $37.63 per barrel rather than had to pay. Why? Because all storage for oil had been filled with the economy at a standstill and oil still being produced, and some oil future speculators suddenly realized with a shock they'd soon have to take delivery of physical crude oil and then be on the hook for storage and insurance. So they panicked, but could not sell the contracts to anyone for positive dollars, so they had to pay for others to take it off their hands. After the panic, the contract indeed then rose to negative 49 cents a barrel, a rise of 98.7%, but still negative. So why am I mentioning this? Because the opposite situation now exists in the gold market. In the gold market. As I told you several clips ago, the market price quoted for gold futures is allegedly fake, with banks basing the gold ETF price on it. However, physical gold has been almost completely bought by countries' several banks who locked it up. So if you want to buy physical gold, you'll probably pay today $100 more per ounce, at least, if you can get it. The futures markets, COMEX and others, are panicking because at a certain point, some gold buyers who can't buy the physical will buy lots of futures contracts and ask for delivery. And then no one wants to be short the current month's contract because the other side may insist on delivery, and where will the shorts get the gold to deliver? There isn't much around, if any. Something like oil storage. At that point, gold future will zoom. Someone will go bust, maybe some gold ETF issuers, and central banks will compel all those who hold gold ETFs, perhaps also gold futures, to take dollars for them at the current fake gold price. And then, right afterwards, the gold price will go zoom, zoom, zoom. Just like the French Revolution. So in my opinion, we are now going through the same step the French economy went through before the French Revolution and right after. First, they took the money off gold, then they printed more and more so-called money, and then the assignats began to go bust, just as today's CLO began to do last week. The conclusion? First, if you read history, you can often take the money of those who haven't read it. So go read Dixon White's book and see yourself why my forecast of gold zooming soon is very likely correct, perhaps even understated. Second, get prepared to see interest rates eventually rise even as inflation rises. Whether it will lead to revolution or disorder, I don't know, but I would guess that owning gold and gold stocks at such times should not be a bad idea. And I would not own even one share of gold ETF. It is to gold what CLO is to real money. In other words, fake. Today it is. That's it for today. Please put a comment below to let me know what you think of this. Give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And tell your friends so they can subscribe too and give a like of their own. I'll see you next time. And meantime, thank you very much for watching.